Alrighty guys, welcome back to another LEGO set review from BrickByBrick, and today we have set number 75293. This is the LEGO Star Wars Resistance ITS Transport, based off of Galaxy's Edge, which was a really awesome surprise when this thing was kind of revealed out of nowhere, and it instantly jumped its way to the top of my most wanted Star Wars sets list. So, keep in mind that I was very excited for this thing's release. It does have one instruction booklet, which doesn't really have anything super special in the back. No special anything for Galaxy's Edge, but we do have the same ad that's in all of the other Star Wars sets from this summer. And also one ad for the Skywalker Saga game, which I guess is a little bit special. But aside from that little logo on the box, there's really nothing that distinguishes this from, other set artworks. They do kind of have the sort of Rise of the Resistance backdrop here on the back of the box. It's obviously not exactly the same thing, but it's sort of similar-ish. And they do show you that there is a code that allows you to unlock the ship in the Skywalker Saga game, and as far as I know, that should be the same in all of them. It's not like one of the Constructomac or Benny Spaceship or the LEGO Movie ones where I think they had like a special printed tile, but it just is. There's just a code in the instructions on the page that I actually just showed you that I just didn't read well enough. But anyway, this set with 932 pieces does retail for $99.99 in the United States, and whatever currency you're in elsewhere is about the same. But it does only have 2 minifigures and 2 droids, so that's a little bit low. But I'm hoping that the build of the ship is cool enough that the lack of figures, it doesn't feel too bad. If you're not familiar with the source material of this ship here, this is actually based on the Rise of the Resistance attraction in both Disneyland and Disney's Hollywood Studios versions of Galaxy's Edge, which is their Star Wars land that was opened in 2019. And I haven't been there, so everything that I will tell you about it is from the internet. And I will say, if you care about spoilers for the ride, there will be some minor ones about this vehicle's role in the attraction, like right now, so maybe skip over a couple minutes, and then you can avoid that. But for anyone who either has been on it or doesn't care about having it spoiled for them, this is basically the angle that you'll see as you walk in the attraction. As soon as you exit out of the queue after they brief you with a hologram of Rey, you'll walk onto this ship, and actually, I guess more accurately, it will be like this, and you'll come up and you will walk in to the inside of this ship, and it will close the doors and it'll simulate flight for you, and an animatronic of Beck will be flying the ship, and you will end up in a tractor beam and the First Order will pull you into their Star Destroyer, and then you'll end up exiting through the other side, and you will be in a Star Destroyer, and it's pretty impressive. If you ever get the chance to go, I'd recommend it. I still am hopefully looking to go at some point in the future, but I haven't ridden this ride yet myself. But I was really excited when LEGO announced, or I guess it sort of leaked first, but when this was leaked, I was really excited to get my hands on it, because I do think that it is, first of all, just a cool looking ship, and second of all, I really like the Disney parks, and anything LEGO and Disney parks will at the very least pique my interest. So luckily this one looked pretty good, and I was very excited to get it as soon as I could. So looking at the actual ship's details here, overall, just proportionally, it's pretty accurate. Like this, it's probably, it's not minifigure scale perfectly. It's a bit smaller than it should be. Like this door doesn't give her too much headroom. So there's a little bit more height there in person, but I think that this works for a minifigure compatible version of this ship. It's probably scaled down maybe 25%, but proportionally, it's pretty accurate. The stud shooters up here on the front are noticeably not super accurate, but they do add some playability. You can turn them up and down and all around, and as far as that function works, it's pretty good. And it's not too hard to mod in something custom that looks a little bit more like the actual ship, which I might end up doing, maybe not. Moving back, they do some interesting stuff with the paneling here, where all of these kind of fold in to make that whole area just work really well, and the wedge plates there work together pretty nicely. Up here, this area is not the prettiest, probably the ugliest part of the build, to be honest, and even then there's no like bright random colors. You can see a little bit of red right there, but other than that, there's really nothing that jumps out at you and is like super ugly here. And these do sort of represent the landing gear of the actual ship, so there's a little bit of actual detail down there. This here, I believe, is also where the landing gear comes out of. They don't give you like the actual landing gear well built up in the set, but I don't think that's too much of a problem. The build for this middle section here is kind of interesting. They use those those A-frame plate pieces, and use Technic to attach those. You can sort of see them inside there. You'll probably get a little bit of a better look when we remove the roof, but basically this part and another plate are just plugged in with Technic bricks. And the build for that it comes together pretty nicely, and just detail wise, you get a couple stickers here which all look pretty good. And moving back to the engines, these are a little bit of a repetitive build, but they do come out looking pretty good, and I think most importantly the size of these is pretty much perfect in relation to the actual ship. They could maybe be a little bit darker, like these could have been dark gray, and I think maybe that would have been a little bit more accurate, but again, it's not too big of a deal. It's somewhere in between the two grays, so I can see why they made this choice. The band of blue maybe a little bit too prominent, but again, that's not too big of a deal, and it's sort of up for interpretation. But the back section here with the engines, you don't actually get to see this view while you're on the ride. You approach it from like this side, so you kind of see the front, you see the side here. You don't really get to see the back because the back is sort of facing a rock wall. I don't know if maybe you can like walk back around that way if you want to, but they don't like lead you that way, and you kind of have to walk out of line in order to get to this view if it's possible at all. Back here it uses one of these dome pieces, which is a little bit loosely connected. It will fall off sometimes, but as long as you don't like hold it from here, that shouldn't be a problem. If you hold it like that, you'll be able to hold this much more easily. I should have mentioned this dome back here is also, I believe, supposed to be a rear window of the ship, so passengers are supposed to be able to make it all the way back to this area really of the ship. But this whole area here is occupied again by that Technic frame. We do have some of these stud shooters back here, which might can act as some rear defense, or you can just see them as additional thrusters. And turning it to the other side, it is basically the same as what we saw before. Back up to the front, it uses these new 4x4 curved pieces to make the sides of the cockpit area, and we do have these ZZ stickers, which that's a detail present on the actual ship, so it's nice to see them get that in here. And you can open up the cockpit like so, as well as, I guess while we're up here I can show you that you can pull the roof off just like that, and it is actually angled, but basically in order to pull it off it will become flat, and then you basically attach it again and then push the sides down in order to make it produce the proper shape, and that feature actually works really well. But back up to the cockpit, there is a little bit of a window suggested there with the use of trans black pieces, but you can't actually see all the way in. If you could see all the way in, you'd notice that the cockpit is pretty pretty tight. There's not too much in there. There's a piece that will hold Beck's feet in. And while it's very hard to see, there is a stickered panel in there providing Beck with a console. And if we slide him in, he fits in pretty nicely, and this does close up all nice and proper. Now for the interior of the actual crew section, where your whole group would end up gathering along with, you know, other families and groups of people. I don't know the exact capacity of this, like how many people they'll put into one of these ships, but it is definitely a lot more than the maybe 2 or 3 that you could fit in here. You can always remove this crate here, which does have 2 blasters inside, which is nice that they include this. Gives this sort of a purpose for kids who end up getting this and don't really care too much about the whole Galaxy's Edge thing, or too much about the ride or accuracy at all, and just want this to be a fun Star Wars ship that they can play with. Or even kids who are familiar with Galaxy's Edge and just want to take this ship and use it for their own adventures, which is really more so what this is actually designed for. It's nice that they have some sort of function. It's like, oh, we're going to go smuggle some of this cargo, some of these weapons. But for fans who are buying this as fans of Rise of Resistance like me, this interior is a little bit disappointing. You know, it would have been nice if you could maybe seat people in there. And the one other thing that would have been really, really nice is if they had some sort of way for you to display Beck sitting in this area in his chair that he will spin around on, because you do get a window into the cockpit area. In the actual Lego model, that's not possible because there is this whole Technic section in here, which is really important to getting the whole structure of the set, you know, actually there. Like, these pieces are all attached to a Technic frame, and so are all of these parts here on the side. You can see some of the Technic frame down here. So, you know, I understand why it wasn't done, but, you know, it is a little bit disappointing. I mean, I gotta be honest there. And the back here also has another one of those window pieces, which, you know, I guess could sort of, you could sort of see that as a little bit of extra space. If those jumper plates weren't there, if you replace that with a 2x2 plate, you might be able to shove this so that it's sticking back into this area, and, you know, you have a little bit more room, but, you know, the way it's designed, you really just have space for that. You could also, I guess, remove this and get the Gonk droid sitting in here, and then you'd be able to have Vi and the astromech in here too, and you'd just be left without space for that cargo, which, the other thing I guess that this cargo could be useful for is, in the actual ride, there's a stack of boxes here, in the back, next to the engines, so honestly I'd probably make up some boxes to display this, a little bit more properly, but, yeah. The one other, minor complaint that I was going to bring up when I talked about these, opening doors before, which they do have the same thing on both sides, just so you're aware. It's completely identical, the way that it's built up, but in the actual ride and on the actual models, everything of the ship, this section here, they do actually open up the same way, just like this, but this section here is the same color as the top of the ship, so this really should be gray. I think the reason why they did it in blue was so that when viewed from a straight-on side view, you'd be able to see all that in a line. But I don't know, I personally really don't see how the gray would have really affected that, but that's very easy to mono out. All you have to do is swap that tile from my 1x8 blue tile to a 1x8 light gray tile. So I might also try that myself. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe, if you guys are interested, maybe I'll do a video updating my ITS transport display once I have done everything that I want to do to it. So, you know, I guess you can let me know if you're interested in that in the comments. But, you know, that's pretty much all there is to the actual ship. I know I went into a lot more detail than really was necessary. But, you know, I just wanted to point out pretty much all of my thoughts about this this whole model as far as accuracy goes, from the point of view of a fan of the Rise of Resistance attractions design. And our two minifigures here are Lieutenant Beck and Vi Murati. And Vi really isn't a part of the Rise of Resistance ride, and doesn't really have anything to do with the ITS transport ship. But, you know, she is a character that was created for Galaxy's Edge. She is a walk-around character, or I guess now that the parks are kind of in weird social distancing mode. She's like she'll do like a little sort of performance thing in a couple areas, but you know, she was designed to be a walk around character. And the torso print for both of these characters is new and exclusive to this set, and both of them look pretty good. I don't really have any complaints. They look pretty accurate. Maybe Beck's torso is a little bit too light, but you know, it's not too bad at all. And I think that it's cool to get as an exclusive torso, and looks pretty accurate. His head is not a new mold; it's the same that they've used for Admiral Akbar, but it does have new printing on it, and it looks pretty good. It's got some printing on the top as well. The printing throughout it is pretty detailed, pretty good looking. So pretty happy with that there. Vi has what I believe is a new face, pretty certain on that, and that does have an alternate expression. But she also has this really well produced hairpiece, which is, I believe it's just dipped in blue paint. It's not dual molding or anything, and it's not like marbled molding, but it's a really cool finish that it's got there, and yeah, it looks pretty good. So happy with that hairpiece. And she does get an alternate facial expression, which makes her a little bit angrier, and I guess we can show you what that looks like framed up by the hair as well. Overall, two pretty respectable figures. They could have maybe used leg print, but then again, you can't even see Beck's legs most of the time because he's sitting down. And Vi's legs aren't really anything special. I mean, I guess if it had like some pockets or something, but you know, it's not that big a deal, and I'm not really gonna nitpick too much on that figure, or I guess either of these figures, because they're both pretty good. They do both have regular small little blaster pistols, but you could exchange those with the full-size blasters that are stored in the cargo. And the two droids included in the set are this astromech droid, which looks which looks like a First Order droid, but it's actually a Resistance droid in disguise. And this is the droid that, spoiler alert, for the Rise of Resistance attraction. Again, you can skip forward about maybe 30 seconds, and I should be done talking about it. But this is the one that will free you from the First Order prison once you're stuck there, because this is the thing that drives the actual ride vehicle in the actual final ride portion of the ride. You know, it's a cool looking figure, and they did a really fantastic job bringing this R5 unit to Lego form. It looks fantastic. They did a great job with the printing all around, and it's really crisp and sharp printing too. So very well done there. Even a little bit of printing on the back. Obviously, it doesn't go all the way around, which will be the next step for these guys. They can do it with the domed ones, but they haven't figured out this part yet. But again, that's a really cool, really well done figure. And this gonk droid here is actually from the line of the attraction. You'll pass it. You know, it's cool, I guess. Can never say no to gonk droids. Nothing exclusive. The least common part is this 2x2 tile in sand green, but I like the way that they built up his feet. That looks pretty cool. And you know, I mean, it's not a bad figure. It's just not anything super duper great or super duper special. But it's there, and you know, it's gonk, so it's cool. So overall, the Resistance ITS transport ship. As a fan of Galaxy's Edge, I am really happy with this set, and I think I probably was going to be regardless, to be honest. But there are, you know, some things that could have been done better. You know, I would have liked some sort of way to kind of make this look like just making the ability to walk in look a little bit more natural. Like there's a 2-plate step up. I would have liked. They could have somehow just figured out how to bring this floor down 2 plates. Would have been difficult, probably, and it probably wouldn't have been as strong. You can remove that if you want this to make a more flush ground connection. You know, that is possible in a really simple mod to do. But you know, it would have been great if they could have made that just a little bit better. Maybe if this wasn't a Technic brick, that would have been a little bit better. But this is a play set, so you know, I can forgive a lot of the really small like stuff that was done for structural integrity and, you know, all that kind of stuff that requires the set to actually, you know, stay together. Now, the thing that's a little bit iffy still is value. I think I would pay $100 for this again and again, but, you know, for your normal, everyday person who's not as big a Galaxy's Edge fan as I am, then, you know, maybe this will feel a little bit too steep for you. Still, it's about what I would expect from a $100 Star Wars ship, build-wise. I think where the value suffers a little bit is the figures. Getting 2 figures and an exclusive astromech droid and a gonk droid on a $100 set does seem pretty low. And they could have done one thing in the set that I think would have made a lot of people, even fans of Star Wars who don't care about Galaxy's Edge at all, really happy. And that would be including 9 Numb as the pilot, because, you know, they do have a spot for someone to pilot the ship, but in the actual attraction, it's 9 Numb who sits up here in this area, and then Lieutenant Beck is in this area that I talked about where he's sitting on a chair, sort of like co-piloting from the back seat, I guess, and that's where the window that allows you to see all the way to the front of the ship is. So, you know, maybe it would have been nice if 9 Numb was included here, and I think that would have been an exclusive figure that would have drawn a lot of people into this set. So, you know, and with the figure number so low, that probably would have been a nice thing they could have done. As far as other figures they could have included that would have made the value feel a little bit better without adding anything exclusive. They could have thrown in Rey or Poe. They both make appearances in the beginning of the attraction in the pre-show. Neither of them are actually physically there, though, which is why it would be a little bit weird. But then again, neither is Vi. So if she makes sense, then they do too. The other thing they could have done, which would have been really easy, and, you know, no one would really have objected to their inclusion, would have been they could have included some First Order stormtroopers or a First Order officer or something. The people who, spoiler alert, again, at the end of the, or not the end, but like the middle of the attraction when you basically have to get out of the ship because you're under First Order control, an officer who's a cast member will come in and escort you out of the vehicle and put you in a prison line, and that's where you'll also pass by this whole like 50 animatronic stormtroopers, and it looks really impressive and all that. They could have just thrown in like 3 or 4 random First Order figures, and, you know, I think it would have made the value feel a little bit better. Again, that sort of goes against what the set is trying to be, which is just a resistance thing, completely 100% resistance, but, you know, that would have been just a nice, simple inclusion to make the value feel a little bit better here, without too much cost to LEGO, because, you know, they wouldn't have had to introduce any new prints or anything, even for those. And I guess the one other thing I could have done is just include some random cargo, but, you know, that's kind of boring, and would still probably not feel like it adds that much value, unless they do add, like, a significant amount of blasters, which those are always cool to get extras of, especially to replace stud shooters, so, you know, that would have been a nice thing, I guess, and I guess for fans of the attraction, it would have just helped to make a little bit of a cooler scene. But anyway, that's enough of me talking about the set. I'm sure you can tell that I had a lot to say, because this is a pretty long video, but if you made it through, hope you got some value out of hearing my perspective on this whole thing. You know, end of the day, I'm really happy that this was even made, so, you know, any of my complaints here aren't really huge. Definitely do not go out and buy this complaints, but, you know, I would really like to see them make more Galaxy's Edge stuff in the future, especially, I guess the one other figure you could have included, it wouldn't have made much sense here because, you know, it's involved with the Smuggler's Run attraction, but they could have included an updated Hondo based on his Galaxy's Edge look, which would also have been cool. But that's kind of a sidetrack, and I kind of threw that in last second. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this whole thing. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys all next time. Bye, everyone.